For 24 years, Adrian had been married to one man, Ezra Davidson.
Her world was Ezra and her children.
But Ezra's world included someone else.
He was talking about having his cake and eating it too.
She found a chain of emails between her husband and the woman.
My mom kind of said, let me deal with it.
And on New Year's 2009, she did.
The cause of death is a gunshot to the back of the head.
Was it the deadly revenge of a scorned wife?
He made his bed and he got to lay in it.
Or the impulsive act of a desperate woman?
She just couldn't take it anymore at that moment and just snapped.
Pomona, California, January 1st, 2009. It was around 2 a.m. on New Year's Day, and 21-year-old Jessica Davidson had just left a friend's party when she received a curious phone call from her mother, Adrian.
We were getting ready to go back and go to bed, and I get this phone call that I need to come home.
As requested, Jessica and her boyfriend drove back to her parents' house in a middle-class suburb of Los Angeles. There, she found 46-year-old Adrian Davidson waiting outside.
I see her right in front of the door, and I ask her, what's going on? Why did you call me in the middle of the night?
Adrian's answer was evasive.
She didn't explain what was happening. She just told her daughter that she needed a ride.
But judging by where Adrian asked to be taken, something was going on.
Her response is, can your boyfriend take me to the police station?
Although in a way, Adrian really didn't need to explain. Jessica knew that her mother and father's marriage was in trouble. Just 2 weeks earlier, Ezra Davidson had admitted that he was having an affair.
Ezra told Adrian that she could leave him or she could live with the fact that he has this mistress.
At this point, I'm thinking, okay, they got into a fight.
That's what Jessica Davidson thought. And she wasn't entirely wrong. There had been a fight, but her father hadn't left. He was still upstairs in bed, and he was dead.
The cause of death is a gunshot to the back of the head.
Born in 1962, Adrian Parrott had grown up in suburban New Jersey.
Her father was a very successful dentist, graduated from Morehouse College, and always lived very, very upper middle class.
But while her childhood was comfortable, it wasn't happy.
She had a mother who wasn't very emotional or outwardly loving, and a father who only knew how to discipline by scaring his children with his fist.
Adrian, the oldest, suffered the most.
Their father beat her with a tree branch. He had 3 daughters, but for some reason, Adrian was the one who he really, really directed a lot of physical abuse towards.
Physical abuse wasn't all Adrian suffered either.
Her father would ridicule her, would talk down to her, took away her confidence.
After high school, Adrian's father shipped her off to Spelman College, a historically African-American women's school, which was associated with his alma mater, Morehouse. But he didn't really send her there to get an education.
According to Adrian, her goal there was to find a husband.
It didn't take Adrian long to find a potential candidate. In 1981, the freshman started dating a young man from Detroit named Ezra Davidson. It was, in many ways, almost an arranged match.
Adrian's dad and Ezra's dad were friends at Morehouse College.
But while she may have started seeing Ezra to please her father, Adrian soon fell in love.
He's goofy and silly and adventurous and just wanting to live life to the fullest.
Here's a man who she thought was totally different from her dad. Here's a man who she admired his intellect. She admired his demeanor. I mean, he was what she thought in her mind that a man should be. And she just fell head over heels.
And when Ezra broke up with her in 1983, she was devastated.
That's when she attempted suicide.
She went out, she bought a bottle of sleeping pills, and she took the whole bottle.
Adrienne failed to take her life.
She ended up waking up in the hospital, and then she was institutionalized briefly in a mental hospital.
But if the suicide attempt had been aimed at getting Ezra's attention, it succeeded. Once she was released from the hospital, the couple got back together.
They were a cute little couple, and they interacted very well together. It just seemed like they were two peas in a pod.
Adrienne and Ezra married in 1984. She dropped out of school and worked as a secretary to support the couple while he completed his degree.
She never finished college.
3 years later, Adrienne gave birth to Jessica, and it was Ezra's turn to support their growing family.
Well, he originally was an accountant and along the way became involved in media.
He was very knowledgeable, very technically savvy.
Over the years, Ezra worked for several information and media companies.
Growing up, we moved around a lot. We lived in Atlanta, New York, California.
But he wasn't content just being an employee.
He had the entrepreneurial spirit.
He carried a check with him for $1 million, and his goal was to be able to cash that check.
In 1998, Ezra and several partners formed their own company.
Working with digital content so that it could be streamed and sold on the internet.
It was a cutting-edge concept for its time.
It was pretty rocky in the beginning.
And Ezra used all his considerable charm to make the new company a success.
Ezra was like a used car salesman. He had that vibe. You know, it was 100%. It was great. Everything was awesome. And people bought into that.
Adrienne, who gave birth to a son in 2000, rarely came along when Ezra was out entertaining clients.
She didn't really want to be around people. Being at home with her kids and her husband, that's all she really needed.
But around the office, there may have been signs that Ezra needed more.
He was just such a playful guy that it was just easy to goof around and have fun, whether it's some sexual innuendo or just something that made everybody kind of laugh.
In the process, Ezra made himself relatively rich. When he and his partner sold the company in 2007, Ezra and Adrienne celebrated by buying a new house in suburban Pomona.
Ezra told his wife to look for a house in the price range of $700,000 to $800,000.
And while he couldn't quite cash that $1 million check he kept in his pocket, he was able to put approximately half that amount down on the new house.
He took out a mortgage for only $300,000.
To pay the mortgage, Ezra took a job at another media company, while Adrienne stayed busy taking care of the new house and their family.
She was pretty much home all the time. I'd see her sometimes gardening in her backyard, and they had a beautiful pool and the hill in the backyard.
For the most part, Adrienne appeared satisfied with her quiet upper-middle-class life in a peaceful suburban neighborhood.
She didn't have a lot of friends. She didn't have a social life. Her world was Ezra and her children.
And as 2008 drew to a close, Ezra was pretty satisfied with his life too, but for a very different reason. After Ezra and his partners sold their company, buying a house wasn't all he did to celebrate.
After we sold the company, there was a lot of celebrating and going out. Ezra was the one that was just the big spender. He treated everybody out to dinner, the most expensive place possible. Everything about him was just big, go big or go home. If he had it, he was going to spend it.
He didn't spend it all on his former employees either.
It attracted certain people. It attracted women, younger women.
Ezra, now in his late 40s, found the attention flattering.
It was fun, it was exciting, it fed his ego. It was something new for him.
Soon, however, Ezra's friends realized that he was after more than flattery.
We were having a house party, and a group of 3 women arrived. They were younger women in college. They were dressed for a club or a party, and he introduced me to one girl in particular that I understood was the girl that he was interested in and started to see.
At the time, Ezra's friends didn't tell Adrian about her husband's affair.
I wasn't going to be very judgmental about that. And I also believe that he also felt that he can try to continue the relationship and continue his family life.
After 24 years of marriage, Adrian eventually began to suspect Ezra was up to something, however. On December 14, 2008, she asked her 21-year-old daughter for some help with her father's computer.
She's trying to get information off the computer. She doesn't tell me what she's looking for.
And when Jessica helped her mother access Ezra's email account, Adrian soon found what she was looking for.
She found a chain of emails between her husband and the woman.
The emails confirmed what Adrian suspected, but Jessica was blindsided by the news of her father's affair.
It makes me pretty sick to my stomach, more so because she's my age.
Based on the emails, Ezra's affair was more than just a casual fling. It was becoming a long-term relationship.
In the email, he's stating that he wants to fly her out to Vegas so that he can see her, and if things go well, that he'd be willing to pay for her tuition and her rent.
Other emails revealed that Ezra had also bought the young woman a car.
She just continued to ask for more and more, and Ezra's nature was to be very giving.
According to Ezra's daughter, the money he was taking from his family and showering on his mistress made Adrian especially angry.
She couldn't believe that this was happening. He is buying her a car and paying for her tuition when I'm driving around in a piece of junk.
Jessica was angry too, and she urged her mother to do something about the affair.
Her daughter encouraged her to leave her husband and find a lawyer so that she could file for a divorce.
What's supposed to happen is you either figure it out or you get a divorce and you move on with your life.
According to Jessica, it appeared that Adrian preferred the first option, working it out.
My mom kind of said, "Don't approach your father, let me deal with it."
Although, in hindsight, Adrian didn't say how she intended to deal with her husband's affair.
I thought that she meant that she would talk to him.
Coming up, Adrian requests a ride to the police station.
I'm freaking out because it's a very unusual request.
And then she makes a shocking confession.
She came into the station and basically told the deputy, "I shot my husband."
Pomona, California, January 1st, 2009. It was a little after 2 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day when 46-year-old Adrienne Davidson called her 21-year-old daughter Jessica and asked for a ride to the nearest police station.
Her daughter was with her boyfriend, and she asked her daughter to come home. She didn't explain why.
However, Jessica Davidson knew about the trouble in her parents' marriage, trouble stemming from the fact that her father was having an affair.
What I'm imagining happened was that they got into a really big fight, and she said that she wasn't gonna take it anymore, and he got really upset, and she just felt fearful for herself and her kids.
That's more or less the way Adrienne acted once Jessica and her boyfriend arrived at the house.
She gets my brother up and tells me that we need to go to my grandparents' house.
So that morning, while Jessica's boyfriend drove Adrienne to an LA County Sheriff's substation, Jessica drove her 8-year-old brother to her grandparents.
I'm freaking out at about this time because It's a very unusual request.
Unfortunately for Jessica, her night was about to get much worse.
My boyfriend calls and says, "You need to come get me at the police station because they're going to hold my car overnight." So I drive back to the police station, and now the police want to hold all three of us there until they're done questioning my mom.
Why the sheriff's deputies wanted to hold them, they wouldn't say.
That just doesn't go down very well. I just get pretty hysterical and really don't understand why I'm here and what's happening.
What Jessica didn't know was that her mother had just made a startling confession.
She came into the station and basically told the deputy, "This is what I did. I shot my husband."
Within minutes, squad cars from the Pomona Police Department had been dispatched to Adrian's house.
We saw the police cars and everything in the house lit up, like a Christmas tree. All the lights were on.
In the master bedroom, the police found confirmation that Adrian was telling the truth.
They find Ezra dead in his bed with a gunshot wound in the back of his head.
And by the time Jessica and her little brother arrived at the station, her mother was already in the interrogation room, giving a formal statement. Adrian told the investigators how on December 14th, she had discovered a series of emails her husband had sent a young woman, apparently a college student.
It seemed like they were in some kind of a relationship. It said in the emails that he would be paying for her rent, paying for her tuition, and he also purchased her a car.
Adrian told the detectives that when she confronted her husband about the affair, he hadn't denied it.
He had told Adrian that he was going to either divorce her or she could accept that he was going to go out and have fun.
According to Adrian, the idea of a divorce terrified her.
She didn't consider divorce for two reasons. She didn't believe in it biblically, and she didn't have anything to fall back on.
I think that Adrian felt trapped. I think she felt that she would be completely lost and alone without Ezra.
But with her husband's affair out in the open, Adrian said she had ended up alone anyway.
He began spending less and less time at their home and spending more time at a condo in Los Angeles owned by his father.
He was talking about having his cake and eating it too, and he was very happy and kind of bragging a little bit.
Adrian said that her husband's flaunting of the affair quickly became more than she could take. And she told the investigators that she had decided to do something about it. The same thing she'd done the first time she feared she was losing Ezra.
Adrian decided after she found out about the affair that she was going to kill herself.
But since the sleeping pills hadn't worked back in college, Adrian said this time she settled on a more surefire method.
She decided that the best way to do it would be to shoot herself, so she went to go and buy a gun.
Adrian said that had been the plan, but when she got to the gun shop, she had apparently hit a snag.
In California, you have to wait 10 days before you can actually get the gun after you ask for it.
Adrian told the investigators that she had gone ahead and ordered the gun, but she also said that by the time she actually got it, she was no longer suicidal.
When you have somebody who's suicidal, they're not suicidal 24/7 all the time. It's peaks and valleys.
Adrian said she had brought the gun home on December 29th and put it in her bedroom closet.
She no longer wanted to kill herself, but she decided to keep the gun anyway because she had paid for it.
According to Adrian, the gun was still in her closet 2 days later when the family gathered for dinner on New Year's Eve.
Ezra bought champagne and dinner, and Jessica was there.
She said that things were going pretty well, that they hung out, they were friendly with each other.
Adrian told the investigators that things were still going well later that night, after Jessica left for a party with her boyfriend and her little brother went to bed.
They even poured champagne and were planning to have a toast when the new year changed.
They were counting the minutes to the New Year's.
But despite the champagne, and despite the fact that she and Ezra had been getting on so well that night, Adrian said midnight came and went without a kiss from her husband.
She felt, disappointed, and she said she's going to sleep. And he said, I'll join you soon.
Adrian told the investigators she had gone upstairs, gotten in bed, and waited. But several minutes passed with no sign of Ezra.
She was wondering what was taking so long.
Adrian told the investigators she had gone downstairs and found Ezra on his phone texting someone.
She assumed that he was texting the mistress.
They celebrated New Year's Eve together, but he turned around and sent this woman a text message.
According to Adrian, she had gone back upstairs to bed.
Eventually, Ezra does join her, and there's a conversation, and then she wants to re-engage him about their marriage, saying that it saddens her that you're, even on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, that you're not giving me the full attention.
She asked him if he would not spend holidays with the woman, not to speak to the woman on holidays.
Adrian said that her husband had flatly and rudely refused.
That's when he said, deal with it on your own.
Then, according to Adrian, her husband had rolled over and gone to sleep.
When she heard that no, he turned his back to her. That sent her in a tailspin.
And as she lay there in bed with Ezra sleeping beside her, Adrian said her thoughts had turned to the gun tucked away in her closet.
She had lost all hope. She decided that she was going to shoot herself.
Adrian told the investigators that she had gone into the closet and retrieved the gun. But even before she put the gun to her head, Adrian said she had started having second thoughts.
She looks around and says, I can't kill myself here because it'd be too messy.
Adrian told the investigators she had then gone into the master bath, only to decide against killing herself there, too.
And she says, I don't want to be found in the bathroom.
Finally, Adrian said that she decided to kill herself in bed, so Ezra would realize just what he had driven her to. Although whether that would actually bother him or not, Adrian said she wasn't so sure. Because according to Adrian, Ezra was already sound asleep when she approached the bed.
She said that he looked like he was at peace. She was upset by that because she had been having a lot of problems sleeping.
Their marriage was in shambles, and she had been contemplating suicide. But Ezra didn't appear to have a care in the world. According to what Adrian told the investigators, it was all suddenly too much.
She explained it as almost an impulse, and without even really thinking about it too much, shot him in the back of the head.
Coming up, Adrian speaks to her daughter.
I'm not leaving the station until I talk to her.
And Jessica gives the investigators a crucial clue.
You told me you were going to take care of things.
On New Year's Day 2009, an hour after shooting her husband Ezra, 46-year-old Adrian Davidson had walked into an LA County Sheriff's Department substation and confessed to the crime.
As soon as Adrian arrives at the police station, she tells the person at the front desk that she's shot her husband and wants to turn herself in.
In a formal statement to the authorities, Adrian said she had been distraught over the fact that Ezra had been having an affair.
After Adrian found all of this information about her husband having an affair, he told her that he was not going to leave this woman that he was seeing.
Shattered by the news, Adrian told the investigators that she had initially planned to kill herself, but at the last minute, she had ended up killing Ezra instead.
She decided she would kill herself in her bed, and then by an act of compulsion just turned over and shot him.
At the end of her statement, Adrian was taken into custody, although the authorities had yet to decide just how to charge her.
All homicides start at second degree. It's an unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought. And then the question then becomes, based upon the evidence that's collected, do we move up to first degree, or does it move down to involuntary manslaughter?
Hoping for a little clarity, the investigators turned to her daughter, Jessica. While Adrian was in the interrogation room, The 21-year-old had been waiting outside, unaware of what her mother was confessing.
I don't appreciate having to stay at the police station not knowing what's going on, so now I'm freaking out.
However, by the time her mother had been taken into custody, Jessica was in the interrogation room and had been told her father was dead.
That really kind of put a whole new perspective on things.
Questioned by the investigators, Jessica told them what she knew about her father's affair and the trouble it had caused in her parents' marriage.
I give them a lot of backstory of also, how things escalated.
She also made it clear that Adrian wasn't the only one who was angry about the affair.
Jessica was enrolled in college, and she said that her father was not able to help her with that cost at all, even at the same time that Ezra had spent all this money on a car for his mistress.
Then, after giving her statement to the investigators, Jessica asked to see her mother.
I basically say that I'm not leaving the station until I talk to her.
Eventually, hours after the shooting, the investigators allowed Jessica to speak to her mother via closed-circuit television.
It's in a very tiny space, and she looks like herself, but she's very distraught. Just can't really keep it together.
The same was true of Jessica.
She's stunned. She's in shock. And she wanted to know what set you off. What set you off?
I just don't get it. You told me yesterday that finally everything was fine. They celebrated New Year's Eve together, and that she had asked for him to reserve the day for them.
And she looked at him, and he was sending messages on his phone. And she feared that maybe he was talking to his mistress.
Couldn't even give me New Year's Eve without involving her. I couldn't believe it. It just broke my heart.
Jessica did her best to comfort her mother.
I get it, Mom. I totally understand. I love you. I'm not mad at you. I get it. I'm fine. I'm fine. I just needed to talk to you.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry, Mom. Don't be sorry. It's okay.
I'm just gonna take it anymore.
But while she was sympathizing with Adrian, Jessica also said something else, something that caught the investigators' attention.
Did you plan this? I mean, is this what you meant when you told me you were going to take care of things on the first?
I just said that I was gonna make sure that I was gonna take care of you.
Was shooting Ezra a spur-of-the-moment decision as Adrian had described? Suddenly, the investigators weren't so sure.
She told her that something was going to happen on the first. And that certainly builds our case when it says she had this planned well in advance.
Adrian also told Jessica that after shooting Ezra, she had meant to kill herself, too.
I understand.
Your father, but I got scared.
She didn't take her own life because after she heard the gunshot, she got scared.
But according to Adrian, she regretted not following through with her suicide plan.
I didn't supposed to be punished.
After Adrian's conversation with Jessica, the authorities were inclined to agree. And a few days later, when the investigators tracked down the gun shop owner who sold Adrian a pistol on December 15th, their suspicion that Ezra's shooting was premeditated only increased.
He showed her about 6 guns. She ended up picking the semi-automatic. It was a Smith & Wesson 9mm.
According to the shop owner, Adrian had also bought a box of hollow point bullets.
There's the full metal jackets, and there's the hollow point ones. And he describes the difference between the two of them to her. He says that if you want a lethal bullet, the hollow point is the way to go.
On January 29, 2009, Adrian was formally charged with first-degree murder.
She picked up the gun on December 29th, and then, of course, proceeded to kill the person on January 1st. Certainly seems like a person who knew what she was doing.
On February 25, 2010, In a courtroom in Pomona, California, Adrienne went on trial for the murder of her husband.
The main question in this particular case is, what is it? Was it a first-degree murder? Was it a second-degree murder? Or was it a voluntary manslaughter?
There were two things complicating that decision. The first was that 2 weeks before the shooting, Ezra had admitted he was having an affair with a much younger woman.
She said he didn't apologize to her about it. He basically told her that he was going to keep seeing this woman and that there wasn't anything that she could do to keep him from her.
The second was the makeup of the jury. 11 women and only one man.
That could be an issue because I can see, the women coming and saying, you know what, I feel sorry for her.
In his opening statement, the prosecutor tried to preempt any sympathy the jury might feel by portraying Adrienne as a cold-blooded killer.
The prosecution argued that Adrienne planned out this killing, that she bought the gun, waited until she had the perfect opportunity to shoot him, and then she shot him.
Coming up, the defense puts Ezra on trial.
She's a battered woman who was pushed over the edge.
And Adrienne takes the stand.
She even said that she wished that she was dead.
On February 25, 2010, Adrienne Davidson sat in a California courtroom on trial for murder. The prosecution's opening statement painted her as a scorned wife who killed her husband in cold blood. But in the defense's open, Adrienne's lawyer presented a different perspective.
Throughout her entire life, Ezra remained her everything. She always questioned, how could she live without Ezra?
According to the defense, Ezra's affair hadn't made Adrienne angry. It had made her depressed and suicidal.
Her intention was to kill herself, and she looked and she saw this man who had taken everything away, and it was just compulsive. She just shot.
The prosecution, when it started presenting its case, countered with testimony they said established that Ezra's shooting was anything but an impulsive act. And it came from Adrienne and Ezra's own daughter, Jessica.
She was very critical in establishing the motive. Jurors want to know what set this person off. Why did this person kill?
On the stand, Jessica told the jury about her father's affair.
She went into detail about how her father was spending a lot of money on his mistress, paying for her rent, paying for her tuition, providing her a car.
Then, once Jessica had provided the proper context, the prosecutors played jurors the tape of the jailhouse conversation Adrienne had with her daughter just hours after the shooting.
On the tape, Adrienne goes into some detail about her reasons for shooting her husband. And for the most part, they coincide with the prosecution's view of the case.
I wasn't going to let him give everything to that girl.
According to the prosecutors, Adrienne had taken steps to prevent that from happening, starting with the gun.
The prosecution in her trial said that she bought the gun intending to kill her husband, not to commit suicide.
The prosecution claimed she had admitted as much in her jailhouse conversation with Jessica.
When I got it, I was just so angry.
According to the prosecution, Jessica hadn't known what her mother planned to do on New Year's. But based on the jail tape, they claimed that Adrienne had dropped hints.
Jessica asked her mom, "Is this what you meant when you said you'll take care of it on the 1st?
I told you to get a lawyer. Why wouldn't you listen to me?
On cross, Adrienne's daughter did her best to defend her mother.
It's still my mom, and I want to defend her in any way that I can because that's all I have to fight for.
Questioned by the defense, Jessica added a surprising new twist to her mother's story.
She's a battered woman who was destroyed as an individual and was pushed over the edge because of it.
According to Jessica, the abuse Adrienne had suffered in childhood continued after she married Ezra.
throughout the marriage, he was physically abusive, he was mentally abusive.
The allegations surprised Ezra's friends and coworkers.
The cheating I could have seen coming. I just didn't see the physical abuse coming. I didn't expect that from him.
On the stand, Jessica insisted that the accusations were true, even detailing one instance of physical abuse she had witnessed.
She was 11 or 12 years old when she said she saw her mother and father argue.
Jessica testified that the argument had come to a violent end.
Dad drags her down 2 flights of stairs, closes the basement door, and all you hear is screaming for the next couple of hours.
According to the defense, that was why Jessica had shown little sympathy for her dead father on the tape made after the shooting.
You could see Jessica comforting her mother and describing her father, who just died. He was an ass. He got what he deserved.
He was an ass, he made his bed, and he got to lay in it.
Can you just imagine the level of torture he must administer for a child to make that statement about her own father?
According to the defense, it was the sort of torture Adrian knew well. They opened their case by calling Adrian's sisters to the stand, who testified about the abuse she had suffered from her father and Adrian's suicide attempt in college after Ezra had tried to break up with her.
The defense wanted to establish a pattern of Adrian wanting to kill herself.
But it was all set up for the defense's star witness. On March 3rd, Adrian took the stand in her own defense.
She looked very vulnerable.
She presented herself as a person that maybe was submissive, or she wanted to give that impression, and maybe meek and docile.
And if her mild-mannered appearance wasn't enough to sway the jury's sympathy, Adrian tearfully described the long years of abuse she had suffered at Ezra's hands.
She talked about a number of instances in the past where she said Ezra beat her up.
Yet despite the alleged abuse, Adrian insisted that she still loved Ezra.
She even said that she wished that she was dead so that she could be with him in the afterlife.
In fact, Adrian claimed that she had planned to kill herself the night that Ezra died.
And it's our contention that when Adrian buys the gun, she is going to kill herself.
But first, according to Adrian, she had made a last desperate plea, asking Ezra to end the affair.
When her husband tells her no, that crushes everything, the entire foundation of her being. I mean, it takes away her family, it takes away her security, it takes away everything.
Rejected by Ezra, Adrian said she had decided there was only one option left.
That compelled her to the closet to get the gun to try to kill herself. And then she thought about it in the bathroom, thought about it in the closet, and then decided she would kill herself in her bed.
But when she came out and saw her husband sleeping peacefully, Adrian said her plan of suicide took a sudden, drastic turn.
She just couldn't take it anymore at that moment and just snapped.
If you ask her now why she does, she'll say, I don't know. I just turned and shot.
She's trying to gain sympathy from the jury.
But did Ezra's cheating and his alleged abuse excuse what Adrian had done? Not according to the prosecution's closing argument. In fact, they questioned whether the abuse had even occurred.
There was nothing about going to the hospital, nothing about calling the police, telling her parents, telling her sisters.
Most telling of all, according to the prosecutors, Ezra's alleged abuse never came up during the candid conversation between Adrian and her daughter, recorded just hours after the shooting.
During that whole conversation, they only talked about one thing only. They talked about the affair. They talked about how Ezra was going to give this person everything. There was never any conversation about any domestic violence. Not once.
Coming up, the jury has no trouble reaching a decision.
The jury deliberated for only 3 hours.
But will jurors find in Adrian's favor?
You're dealing with a woman who has a history of being a victim.
Los Angeles, California, March 9, 2010. It was just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon when the jury filed back into an LA County courtroom, ready to return its verdict in the murder trial of 47-year-old Adrian Davidson.
The jury deliberated for only 3 hours before they returned their verdict.
Adrian had confessed to shooting her husband Ezra shortly after midnight on New Year's Day, 2009. Charged with first-degree murder, she faced the possibility of life in prison if convicted.
First-degree murder carries 25 years to life.
At trial, Adrian and her attorney had sought a lesser charge, arguing that Ezra Davidson's death was the desperate act of a woman who'd suffered years of physical and emotional abuse.
You're dealing with a woman who has a history of being a victim of abuse, who attempted to kill herself, commit suicide, on a prior occasion when she thought she was going to lose this very man.
But would their argument resonate with the jury?
The jury had the option of convicting Adrian of first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and also of voluntary manslaughter.
It all came down to the moment when the verdict was read.
The jury found Adrian guilty of first-degree murder, willful, deliberate, with premeditation.
They just did not believe that Adrian bought the gun to kill herself.
Despite the verdict, Jessica remained convinced that her mother hadn't intended to kill her father that night.
In my mind, I don't think that this was something that she thought or planned of doing.
At the sentencing hearing on March 23rd, she once again testified on her mother's behalf.
She kind of painted her mother as almost a victim.
And pleading with the judge and basically telling him that he can't take her away forever.
However, California law gave the judge little choice in the matter. In fact, it effectively doubled her minimum sentence.
The gun allegation, because it led to Ezra's death, is an additional 25 years to life.
Now serving 50 years to life, Adrian has discouraged her daughter from visiting her in prison.
She doesn't see a reason to have an ongoing relationship. She prefers that I live my life, that she's no longer on this earth.
According to her supporters, it's one final tragedy in the long string stretching back to Adrian's troubled childhood.
This is a woman, who basically never experienced happiness. She's always in prison.
But for others, Adrian's efforts to cast herself as the victim can't counteract the simple fact that she killed a man.
There is a victim here, and that is Ezra.
Ein tiefgreifendes Drama erschütterte die friedliche Gemeinschaft von Arlington im Bundesstaat Texas. Als ein älteres vietnamesisches Ehepaar in seiner eigenen Wohnung auf grausame Weise sein Leben lassen musste. Long Nguyen und seine Ehefrau Hong Lee, die im Jahr 2000 ihre Heimat Vietnam verlassen hatten, um in den Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika den sogenannten amerikanischen Traum zu verwirklichen, galten als hart arbeitende und tief in ihrer Kultur verwurzelte Menschen. Sie bauten sich durch Fleiß eine Existenz in der Textilbranche auf und waren für ihre Großzügigkeit sowie ihre Verbundenheit zur Familie und Tradition geschätzt. Doch das Schicksal nahm eine dunkle Wendung, als wirtschaftliche Schwierigkeiten die Familie dazu veranlassten, Hilfe in der spirituellen Welt zu suchen, in der Hoffnung, einen vermeintlichen Fluch von ihrem Geschäft abzuwenden. Wandten sie sich an eine in Houston ansässige spirituelle Beraterin namens Daphne Wright. Diese Frau, die sich als Retterin in der Not präsentierte, entwickelte sich für die Familie jedoch zu einer unerbittlichen Bedrohung. Als die Beamten des Arlington Police Department am 10. Juni 2012 nach einem Hinweis des Schwiegersohnes Cao schon den Tatort betraten, bot sich ihnen ein Bild des Schreckens. Die betagten Opfer waren in einem kleinen Schrank entdeckt worden. ihre Körper durch Klebeband in einer entmenschlichten Weise fixiert. Die Szenerie war mit einer solchen Brutalität gestaltet, dass selbst erfahrene Mordermittler, die seit über 20 Jahren im Dienst standen, von der Grausamkeit zutiefst erschüttert waren. Zunächst deutete alles auf einen missglückten Raubüberfall oder die Tat einer Straßengang hin. Da am Tatort gezielt Spuren wie eine blau gefärbte Bandader, Bierflaschen und Reste von Betäubungsmitteln hinterlassen wurden, um eine kriminelle Signatur vorzutäuschen. Doch die Ermittler ließen sich von dieser inszenierten Inszenierung nicht täuschen. Es blieb ein Fall, der über Jahre hinweg keine greifbaren Ergebnisse lieferte und schließlich zu einer kalten Akte wurde. Die entscheidende Wende trat erst 3 Jahre später ein, als eine DNA-Probe, da von einem am Tatort gefundenen Marihuana-Rest gesichert worden war, im System der Bundesbehörden einen Treffer ergab. Der junge Willie Guillory war im Jahr 2015 aufgrund eines anderen Verbrechens in das Register aufgenommen worden. Die Vernehmung von Willie deckt ein erschütterndes Komplott auf. Er und sein Onkel Bobby Guillory waren von Daphne Wright angeheuert worden, um das Ehepaar zu ermorden. Wright, die ihre Kunden durch ein Netz aus psychologischer Manipulation und der Drohung mit angeblichen Flüchen in eine existenzielle Abhängigkeit trieb, hatte die finanziellen Notlagen der Familie rücksichtslos ausgenutzt. Bobby Guillory Justin Spader, dass Wright die treibende Kraft war und von den Lebensversicherungen der Opfer profitieren wollte, um die aufgelaufenen Schulden aus ihren spirituellen Dienstleistungen einzutreiben. Der Prozess gegen Daphne Wright im Jahr 2019 offenbarte die Abgründe menschlicher Gier. Trotz der Aussage von Chao Chan, der gegen Immunität über die Manipulationen und den Druck durch Wright berichtete, blieb für die Ermittler ein bitterer Nachgeschmack. Während Wright zu einer lebenslangen Freiheitsstrafe ohne die Möglichkeit auf Bewährung verurteilt wurde, entzog sich der Schwiegersohn Chao Chan einer strafrechtlichen Verfolgung. Die Tragödie um Long Nguyen und Hong Li erinnert eindringlich daran, wie gefährlich es ist, wenn Verzweiflung und der Glaube an esoterische Versprechen auf skrupellose Ausbeutung treffen. Trotz der Verurteilung der Haupttäterin bleibt bei den beteiligten Beamten das Gefühl zurück, dass die Gerechtigkeit in diesem komplexen Geflecht aus Verrat und menschlicher Tragik keine vollständige Antwort auf das Leid dieser Familie finden konnte. Es bleibt das Gedenken an ein Ehepaar, das in der Fremde ein neues Zuhause suchte und dessen Vertrauen auf tragische Weise missbraucht wurde. Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could possibly imagine, and sometimes they do it with a smile on their faces, as if it were nothing more than tidying up the house on a weekend afternoon. My, you look at a person and think you see a soul, but in reality, you might just be looking at a mask constructed by deception. Back in March of 1987, in the Wilton Manors area of Florida, we received a call. It was a peaceful place, the kind of town people moved to just to get away from the noise of daily life. Yet right there, we found 37-year-old Bernie James, slumped over in his vehicle. His wife, Patty, seemed heartbroken, but in this business, I have learned a hard truth. If someone tells you a story that is simply too perfect, it is usually a fabrication. She claimed that her husband was fixing the car. Then she encountered a strange man, and from there, everything descended into tragedy. I have seen many things in my life, but the dishonesty of this woman was truly chilling. She pretended to be a flight attendant. She invented entirely different personalities just to manipulate people. She did not just kill her husband. She murdered the truth itself. She dragged a man named Tim out into her vortex, making him believe her twisted tales of abuse. I tell you, you have to ask yourself who you are really facing when you look into the eyes of people like this. Bernie, a Marine, a father, and a firefighter who always wanted to help others, ultimately became the prey for the very woman he had welcomed into his home to fill the void left by his late wife. When we processed the scene, we found no evidence of a standard robbery. The wallet had been rifled through, yet nothing was missing. The oil cans were arranged like a bad stage play. Inconsistency is the greatest enemy of the criminal. As we dug into her life, we uncovered a sophisticated web of scams. From pretending her son was deaf to solicit money, to isolating her family from the world, everything was a performance. You have to be kidding me. A mother, a wife, Could she truly be that cold-blooded? Eventually, the truth surfaced. Timot, under the pressure of the investigation, confessed to that horrific act. He admitted that Patty had orchestrated everything, from plotting to poison him with apple and apricot seeds to using brute force to end Bernie's life because he intended to divorce her. She could not accept rejection. She could not bear to lose her control. When she stood before us, she performed one last act, blaming it all on an alternative personality named TJ. It was laughable. That is not pathology. That is pure, unadulterated evil. Watching Bernie's children, those kids who had to endure the heartbreak of losing their mother only to witness their father being murdered by the very woman who was supposed to protect them, I felt a bitterness I cannot describe. This world is not sure people like Patty James, individuals who hide the monster within beneath a veneer of normalcy. In the end, justice was served. She received a life sentence, and that is the only place she belongs. Reflecting on the nature of humanity often keeps me awake at night. We are the sum of our choices, and Patty chose to become the darkness. Would you like me to delve deeper into the criminal psychology of Patty James in this case? Or would you like me to analyze the specific illogical inconsistencies in her initial statements based on my years of investigative experience? Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could ever imagine. You see a beautiful face, a radiant smile, and you think the world is a peaceful place. But then behind closed doors, darkness rises in ways you cannot believe. I have witnessed things that would make your skin crawl, and I tell you, jealousy is a poison far worse than any chemical you could find in a storage shed. My, look at the case of Shirley Pierce in Kannapolis, North Carolina. A wonderful woman, a respected grandmother, standing on the threshold of happiness with her fiancé, Chuck Reeves. But in July of 2013, instead of wedding bells, people heard a horrific 911 call. When I walked into that house, the air was thick with a deadly silence. The smell of bleach was so overpowering it made you want to vomit. There were blotchy patterns on the carpet, signs of an attempt to clean up with chemicals. And there, in the bathtub with the water still running, was Shirley. She had been stabbed multiple times in the neck. A brutal attack, full of hatred, not the kind of thing a common burglar would do. I tell you, when you hear a spouse call in and say they think their partner may have killed someone, you know you are facing a grim reality. Irvin Johnson, the husband of the perpetrator Marlene Johnson, did exactly that. Marlene, a woman whose reason was eaten away by jealousy and obsession. She could not accept the truth that her husband was not having an affair with Shirley. She stalked Shirley like a predator, using drones, hiring private investigators. She turned her life into a mad mission to destroy an innocent woman. You see, jealousy is not love. It is a pathological possession. And when people like Marlene cannot control reality, they resort to a knife. I tell you, the fact that Marlene hid items and used bleach to clean up blood proved she knew what she was doing. But she forgot one thing: DNA never lies. It was there on the shower curtain as a damning indictment. And when the jury returned a guilty verdict, Marlene gasped and collapsed. A final act of weakness from someone who had committed a vicious crime. Yet that is not all. Look at the tragedy of the Burns sisters in St. Petersburg, Florida. Debbie Burns, a woman with neurological disabilities, had her life taken by her own sister, Barbara, who had spent 40 years of her life acting as a nursemaid, a caretaker, and the entire world for her. You have to be kidding me. A sister who kills her own sibling and lives with the corpse for months among air fresheners, scented candles, and plastic sheeting. That is not the crime of a typical cold-blooded killer. It is the total breakdown of a human being after decades of forcing herself to bear the unreasonable demands of her sister, the financial impasse, and the psychological pressure weighing down upon her. Barbara had shot her sister while she was sleeping, then lived in that house like a ghost. When we found the remains of Debbie, I was truly stunned. The brutal circumstances of life can create devils even out of the most decent people. When Barbara confessed, She still could not remember why she had pulled the trigger. It was the breaking point of patience, terrible loneliness, a bitter lesson about unrequited sacrifice, and how people lose themselves when faced with pressures that can no longer be endured. Life, in the end, is sometimes a series of sad events that we can never turn back time to fix. I have seen many killers, but women like these, with such deep psychological wounds, always leave me with a haunting obsession. Never underestimate the power of jealousy or desperation, because they can turn a normal person into a ghost of guilt at any moment. Human beings are strange creatures. They kill each other for the most ridiculous reasons you could possibly imagine. And then they lie to themselves, pretending they're innocent. You know, I have spent my entire life looking into the darkness of the human soul. I have seen killers try to cover up their crimes with clumsy lies, and this case was no exception. Listen to me. I am going to tell you about a case that haunted the small town of Prescott in Arizona for over 30 years. On an evening in September 1988, a man who was target shooting in the Prescott National Forest stumbled upon a horrific sight at a local area that the locals call Gordo Pit. He saw something poking up from a pile of burned trash. It was not a stick, it was a human arm. When the Yavapai County Sheriff Office arrived, they knew immediately that this was a brutal homicide. The victim had been burned beyond recognition. There was no DNA, no modern technology like we have today, just disconnected clues and a deafening silence. The victim was identified as Pamela Pitts, a 19-year-old popular teen with a bright smile, a wonderful big sister who was always full of life. She had gone missing 13 days earlier. When I talked to the victim's family, I saw pain that could never be erased. They had lost a child, a friend, and all they had left were questions. You have to understand, when a kid leaves the nest, we always expect them to go on to success, not to end up in a burned-out trash pit. Suspicion quickly fell upon Pamela's roommate, Shelley Norgard. Shelley was a strange individual, always distant, and never shared anything about her background. While Pamela was outgoing, Shelley was full of issues regarding abandonment. Their relationship had soured over money and rent, and Pamela was planning on moving out. Surprisingly, when Pamela went missing, all of her personal belongings remained in the house. I tell you, who leaves home and takes nothing with them unless they have no other choice? Rumors began to swirl throughout the town. There were stories about satanic cults, ritualized sacrifices, and dark ceremonies. Those are the things people cook up when they cannot find a logical answer. Investigators chased those leads, but they all led to dead ends. The case eventually went cold. You know, in my world, if you do not find evidence in the first few weeks, you are faced with a brick wall. Very few of these old case files ever come to fruition, but we never gave up. Then, in May of 1991, a shocking discovery shook Prescott once again. Students found a male body hanging in a vertical mine shaft. It was Ray Clerks, the boyfriend of Shelley Norgard. Ray had been shot in the head. And this time, we found Shelley's fingerprints on a flashlight at the crime scene. Do you see the connection? Both of the people in Shelley's life, both people who intended to move on without her, ended their lives in the most horrific ways imaginable. Shelley later confessed to killing Ray out of rage. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. But what about Pamela? It took 18 more years of agonizing waiting for the victim's family, until March of 2011, when a cold case team reopened the investigation. They listened to the recorded jail calls of Shelley and heard a suspicious silence when her father asked her what had actually happened to Pamela. In June of 2017, Shelley was arrested for the murder of Pamela Pitts. In March of 2021, she finally confessed that she had beaten Pamela to death during a fight on the night she disappeared. She called it an accident. You have to be kidding me. No one beats someone to death and then pours gasoline on their body to set it on fire by accident. That is personal. That is hatred, deep and cold. Shelley was released because she had already served enough time for the murder of her boyfriend. A bitter, unfair ending, but at least Pamela's family finally had the truth. People often look for justice, but sometimes justice is simply knowing who did it and why. After recounting this case, I cannot help but reflect that every human being carries shadows within them. But some people allow that darkness to consume their humanity entirely. How you feel about a killer who can calmly go on living after taking the lives of two people she once claimed to love the most? A few years later, the Clayton Family Charity Fund helped hundreds of students turn their dreams into reality. Every year-end, the house by Lake Wiley would be filled with thank you cards and handwritten letters containing many emotional stories from the young people they had supported. Steve no longer did business, but he found a new, more meaningful, and higher purpose alongside his kind wife. In the late afternoons, when the sunset dyed the calm surface of the lake yellow, people would see the old couple holding hands and walking along the water's edge, followed by their two little dogs running happily. They did not need noisy vows. Their love was proven through every meal, every glass of herbal tea, and through the understanding and patience they had for each other. The story of Steve and Lana became a beautiful song about family, about care and the value of health. It reminds everyone who knows them that true love does not always lie in expensive gifts or flashy trips, but lies in the presence during sickness, lies in the patience to advise each other toward better things. And sometimes, a bitter glass of tea brewed with all one's heart is the sweetest medicine to heal and nurture a life. Light from the living room window cast warm, golden streaks on the grass. From inside, the familiar hearty laugh of Steve and the gentle, deep voice of Lana echoed out. The symphony of love, of laughter, and of peace would still echo forever in their home by the lake. It was a bright and sunny day in the beautiful coastal city of Miami on the 10th of March in the year 2007. A warm ocean breeze rustled through the tall palm trees, carrying the scent of salt and celebration. On this day, a young woman prepared to walk down the aisle to marry the love of her life. She was filled with mixtured joy and a lingering, quiet sadness, for only 11 months earlier, her beloved father had passed away. In that profound moment, seeking the strength of a brother, she turned to the person who had been her guardian since childhood. There, standing with a radiant smile and eyes full of gentle wisdom, was her 52-year-old brother, Steve Clayton, ready to walk her toward her future. Steve Clayton was a man who possessed a heart as expansive as his success. In the quiet sanctuary of the wedding, when the minister asked who would give this woman to be married to this man, Steve spoke with a clear and firm voice, offering her in memory of their father. Tears flowed freely among the guests, as the love of the departed father was felt through the steadfast presence of his son. After their father passed, Steve had truly become the head of the family. Even though he had never had children of his own, he had always been a father figure to his younger siblings. When his parents were married, Steve was only about 2 or 3 years old. He had 4 sisters, and the youngest was 10 years his junior. Because of this age gap, there was never a moment when Steve was not a part of her life. He was a hero of her childhood. He played football and wrestled in high school, and to her, he was larger than life, a protector who could conquer any challenge. After completing his education, Steve graduated from college with a degree in finance. He matured rapidly, evolving into a shrewd and visionary businessman, along with a partner. He established a company that eventually became a national leader in physical therapy, with centers spread across the country. Those who knew him from those early days recalled a man who built his empire with integrity and kindness. Success brought him great wealth, yet it never diminished his spirit of generosity. His goal was to retire at the age of 40, though he missed that mark by a single year and retired at 41. With his newfound time, Steve dedicated his life to giving back. He mentored a vast group of young men, helping them find their direction in life and teaching them how to start their own businesses. His resources and his time were always open to those in need. No matter how busy he became, Steve always made time for his family. In the old family recordings that remain, one can see him teasing his uncle and bringing laughter to every room he entered. He often acted as a humorist of the family. using his wit to lighten the serious atmosphere that their father had sometimes cultivated. At his sister's wedding, his charm made him the soul of the occasion. He was always the first to stand and offer a toast, speaking from the heart without the need for a prepared speech. He often joked to hide his emotions, but when he thanked his new brother-in-law for making his sister so happy, his voice trembled with sincere affection. One of the most cherished moments of the day was the father-daughter dance. Just before the music began, a recorded message from their late father played, sharing a memory of his daughter as a young child. In that moment, Steve did not just fill the role of a brother. He was the entertainment, the peacemaker, and the emotional anchor for everyone present. Despite his professional success and his close-knit circle, Steve had found his own romantic life to be complicated. He was searching for a partner who was as focused, determined, and loving as he was. It was a high standard to meet. At 52 years of age, his family wondered if he would ever find someone who could truly sweep him off his feet. He was looking for a connection that was emotional, intellectual, and spiritual all at once. 3 years later, in the late months of 2009, Steve decided to leave the familiar sunshine of Florida to seek a change of pace in North Carolina. He loved the outdoors, enjoyed walking, and cherished the freedom of nature. Within a few months of his move, he shared the wonderful news that he had met someone special. He carried a glow that his family had not seen in a long time. Her name was Lana Walsh, a nurse who was 12 years his junior. To his family, she appeared quiet, sweet, and gentle. Her stillness was a stark contrast to Steve's gigantic, boisterous personality, yet he was convinced she was the one. They were affectionate, always walking arm in arm, and Steve was constantly hugging and kissing her. His family was happy for him, embracing his choice with open arms. It was not long before Steve asked Lana to move in with him. He was a persuasive man, and soon they were sharing a home in Charlotte. They added new life to their household, adopting 2 beautiful Italian greyhounds. With Lana, Steve finally felt that he had discovered his missing piece. He referred to her as his Lana, Sue, and was deeply in love. His family felt that Steve had finally found a sense of peace. In November of 2013, Steve and Lana were married at their home. It was a lovely event, and many of their relatives traveled to North Carolina to witness the union. The love between them was radiant. Soon after, they decided to move into their forever home on the banks of Lake Wylie, across the border in South Carolina. The house was like something from a postcard, a beautiful blue structure overlooking the water. They spent their days decorating it with Steve's art and antiques, enjoying the nature that surrounded them. The move brought them closer to Steve's extended family. His niece and her husband moved to the area, and they became a fixture in each other's lives. They shared dinners, concerts, and holidays. They were also only a short drive away from the children and grandchildren of Lana, and the couple was always eager to help with babysitting. Steve had a natural way with children because he remained a child at heart. He would get down on the floor to play games, laugh at silly jokes, and ensure that there was never a dull moment in the household. For 5 years, their life seemed to be a picture of happiness. But in June of 2018, Steve suddenly fell ill. He complained of vertigo, nausea, and dizziness. While working in the yard, he collapsed. Lana, acting as his nurse, suggested he rest in bed. He later recalled that he drifted off, and when he woke, 36 hours had passed. When his sister, Rosie, called to check on him, she was told that he was simply exhausted. His family trusted Lana to care for him, given her medical background. After 2 weeks, Steve seemed to return to his old self, hosting a 4th of July party with his usual warmth and affection. Everything seemed to be back to normal, and no one doubted that they would have many more years together. However, on the 21st of July in 2018, a call was made to the local emergency services. When the police arrived, they found Steve at the bottom of the staircase, his life already extinguished. Lana was distraught, claiming that he had been ill for days and that she had tried to care for him. She believed he had fallen due to his vertigo. The investigation that followed was careful and thorough. The coroner initially suggested that the death might have been a natural heart attack, pointing to the discoloration of his chest. The family, devastated, helped clean the house to provide comfort for Lana. But as they worked, they made a shocking discovery in the bedroom. The mattress was ruined with deep stains and the smell of human waste, suggesting that Steve had been confined to the bed for days, unable to move or care for himself. This discovery ignited a fire of suspicion. When they spoke to Lana, her story did not align with the reality of Steve's personality. Steve was a man who lived with his phone. He would never have gone days without communicating. The family learned that there was no will, and the suddenness of his passing began to feel less like an accident and more like a tragedy. They requested an autopsy and a toxicology report. When the results arrived, they were devastating. Steve's blood contained traces of sedatives and a lethal amount of tetrahydrozoline, the active ingredient in common eye drops. It was a substance that, when ingested, could cause illness, dizziness, and eventually a fatal heart attack. The bottle of eye drops found in the house was sitting on a high dresser, far from the bed where Steve had been lying, proving that he could not have reached it himself. The detectives confronted Lana. After initially claiming that Steve had been abusive and that she was merely retaliating, she confessed to adding the eye drops to his water. She had hoped to make him sick. She claimed not to kill him, but the amount found in his system was undeniable. Before she could be arrested, Lana attempted to take her own life, but she was saved and subsequently brought to justice. In January of 2020, she accepted a plea deal, admitting to voluntary manslaughter and tampering with a food product. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison. In the aftermath, the family struggled to reconcile with the loss of such a vibrant man. They fought to clear his name, refusing to accept the narrative of a difficult marriage that Lana tried to weave. Those who had known Steve, the young men he had mentored, and the family who had loved him, all stood firm. Steve was a gentle, generous, and kind soul. He was a man who lived to lift others up, and his memory could not be tarnished by the actions of another. Today, those who love Steve focus on the legacy he left behind. They remember his boisterous laugh, his deep love for his family, and his constant willingness to help those in need. While the circumstances of his passing were dark, the light of his life continues to shine through the many hearts he touched. His story serves as a reminder to cherish every moment with loved ones and to remember the man who was, above all else, a beloved brother, a loyal friend, and a beacon of kindness in the lives of everyone who knew him. EOF, I hope this narrative provides a closure and reflection you were looking for. It is a story of a wonderful life, told with respect for the memory of the individual, while maintaining the requested focus on human values and resilience. If there's anything else you need, I am here to help. Chapter 1, The Family Hero. It was the 10th of March, 2007, a magnificent spring day bathed in the golden, radiant sunlight of a resplendent coastal city. The very atmosphere seemed painted with vibrant hues of happiness, humming with the joyous rhythms of a truly momentous occasion. This was the wedding day of a beautiful bride named Rosemary, the undeniable pride and joy of her entire family. Finally, after countless days of sweet anticipation, she was officially stepping into a new chapter of life with the love of her life, a warm and remarkably steadfast man named William. Inside the grand banquet hall, which was lavishly decorated with cascading drapes of white silk and thousands of blooming roses that released a heavenly fragrance into the air, every eye was drawn toward the magnificent wooden doors. As the gentle, melodic strains of classical music began to echo through the room, the bride made her grand entrance. She was walking arm in arm with a man whose smile was as bright as the morning sun, and whose eyes sparkled with profound, unadulterated joy. This man was none other than her eldest brother, Steve. Though he had recently turned 52 years old, he carried himself with a robust strength, unwavering dignity, and overflowing vitality of a man in his prime. Just 11 short months prior to this glorious day, their tight-knit family had endured an immensely heartbreaking loss when their beloved father passed away. The absence of his guiding shadow on the happiest day of his youngest daughter's life was an ache that lingered in their hearts. Yet, the beautiful bride had not hesitated for a single moment to approach her older brother, her voice trembling with emotion, to ask if he would stand in their father's place and walk her down the aisle. As they walked together, tears glistened in the corners of many eyes. They were tears of profound emotion, celebrating the unbreakable bonds of family love. To her, there was absolutely no one else on this earth more deserving of stepping into that sacred and deeply honored role. When the warm, resonant voice of the officiant echoed through the quieted hall, asking who was giving this woman to be married to this man, the older brother answered with unwavering clarity. His voice rang out, heavy with pride and rich with emotion, declaring that he did so in the cherished memory of their late father. That specific moment was profoundly special, carrying a deeply spiritual significance as the entire family gathered together. Even though their father was not physically present, his boundless love clearly enveloped them all, living on brightly through the towering presence of his eldest son. From the moment their father departed this world, the older brother seemed to naturally shoulder the immense responsibilities of the family patriarch. Despite the fact that he had never married or had children of his own at that point in his life, he stood out as an immaculate father figure and a fiercely loyal protector to his younger siblings. The age gap between him and his youngest sister was a full 10 years. When their parents had first tied the knot, he was just a toddler learning to take his first steps. In the childhood memories of the little sister, there was not a single significant moment that lacked the comforting shadow of her big brother. He was never just an older brother. He was an absolute hero in her eyes. During his high school years, he had proudly played on the football team and harbored a deep passion for the demanding sport of wrestling. His broad, muscular physique, his roaring, infectious laughter, and his fiercely resilient personality transformed him into a larger-than-life figure. He offered an absolute sense of safety and shelter to the younger girls of the family. Following his high school graduation, he ardently pursued his education, eventually grasping a bachelor's degree in the complex field of finance. Driven by his brilliant intellect, sharp intuition, and an incredibly high standard of personal discipline, he rapidly matured into a remarkably astute and successful businessman. Partnering with a trusted colleague, he founded a promising company dedicated to providing physical therapy resources. Fueled by his visionary strategic planning and relentless dedication, that once modest enterprise expanded magnificently into a robust national corporation, eventually boasting a vast network of physical therapy centers stretching from coast to coast. His spectacular success in the professional realm rewarded him with a substantial personal fortune. This financial triumph allowed him to confidently sell the majority of his shares and officially enter a blissful state of retirement at the impressively young age of 41, missing his own ambitious life goal by a mere single year. Stepping away from the high-pressure battlefield of the corporate world, he discovered a profound, sustaining joy in a new, far nobler mission, the art of giving back and dedicating himself to others. He devoted the vast majority of his newly found free time to becoming a guiding mentor for countless ambitious young individuals. He patiently taught them the fundamental principles of starting a business, generously shared his priceless management experiences, or sometimes simply sat quietly, offering a compassionate ear to help them navigate the complex directions of their unfolding lives. Anyone who ever had the distinct pleasure of crossing paths with him readily acknowledged that he was an exceptionally generous soul. His generosity was not limited strictly to practical financial assistance, but extended deeply into his heartfelt dedication and the precious gift of his time. Yet, no matter how busy he became with his various community projects, his family forever remained the supreme priority in his heart. He never, under any circumstances, missed a family gathering. On his beloved sister's wedding day, his natural charm and wonderful sense of humor easily established him as the true spirit of the celebration. He was inevitably the first person to enthusiastically stand up and raise a glass for a toast at any gathering, holding a delicate glass of fine wine. He stepped onto the brightly lit stage with an aura of absolute confidence and a radiant smile. His speeches were never dry, pre-written lines read from a card. Rather, they always flowed with beautiful spontaneity straight from the deepest corners of his heart. He cleared his throat gently, offered a warm smile toward the groom, and spoke the most sincere words of gratitude, thanking his new brother-in-law for bringing such a brilliant, unwavering smile to his little sister's face. Using his signature witty tone, he playfully teased the couple, a gentle tactic to gracefully mask the swelling tide of emotion tightening his chest. He tenderly recalled the very last instructions given by their father on his deathbed, a solemn vow that he must always protect and care for his sister. He looked directly into the tear-filled, joyous eyes of the bride, firmly reaffirming the boundless, unconditional love that both he and their father held for her. He praised the newlyweds as an absolutely perfect pair, magnificent companions on the journey of life, and sweetly confessed that he had never seen his sister look so completely and utterly happy. Following his deeply moving speech, he walked over to his sister to share the traditional father-daughter dance. As they prepared to gracefully step out onto the polished dance floor, an incredibly surprising and profoundly emotional moment unfolded. An audio recording featuring the warm, familiar, deep voice of their late father began to play, filling every corner of the silent hall. His voice spoke gently, fondly recalling the precious days when his little girl would climb onto his knee and innocently declare her endless love for him. This beautiful declaration of love from the world beyond moved the entire room to tears of bittersweet happiness and loving remembrance. On that spectacular day, the older brother was not just a sibling, a best man, or the master of ceremonies. He was the unbreakable emotional anchor, ensuring that everyone felt a profound sense of peace and kept a bright smile on their faces. Chapter 2, A Quiet Blossom. Although he possessed a brilliantly successful career and was constantly surrounded by the deep love of his family and a vast circle of wonderful friends, his personal romantic life had experienced its fair share of turbulent ups and downs. Deep within his heart, he perpetually longed to find a soulmate who shared his grand vision for life. He dreamed of a woman who was not only highly intelligent and decisively strong, but also overflowing with the same profound compassion and deep care for others that defined his own character. It was, truthfully, an exceptionally high standard to seek amidst the chaotic, bustling rush of modern existence. As he crossed the threshold of 52 years of age, his family secretly harbored the thought that it would require an incredibly unique and extraordinary woman to fully capture the heart of this seemingly perfect man. Everyone who knew him understood intimately that he was searching for a partner capable of connecting with him across every possible dimension, from the deepest emotional vibrations of the soul to a beautiful harmony of intellect, all the way to a fiercely shared spiritual belief. And then, as if written in the stars, a genuine miracle manifested 3 years later. In the crisp, fading months of the year 2009, an intense yearning to discover a more peaceful, rhythmic pace of life urged him to depart from his sun-drenched home state. He packed his belongings and relocated to a gentler, more serene region of the country, nestled in North Carolina. He was a man who absolutely adored physical activity. He was deeply passionate about embarking on long, vigorous hikes through dense, whispering forests, breathing in the pure, unpolluted air, and fully absorbing the magnificent sense of boundless freedom that came from immersing himself in the vast beauty of nature. Moving to this lush new territory opened up a boundless horizon of opportunities for him to live, completely in sync with his profound love for the great outdoors. Within just a few delightfully brief months after thoroughly settling into his new life, he joyously contacted his family to announce that he had finally met someone incredibly special. Through the telephone receiver, his voice resonated with infectious, vibrant excitement, carrying a fresh, luminous energy that his family had not heard radiating from him in quite some time. The woman who had captured his heart was named Lana, a name that suited her like a gentle, delicate blossom. She was an exceptionally dedicated nurse who had been raised amidst the quiet, peaceful farmlands of Oklahoma, and she was 12 years younger than him. Upon their very first impressions, his family perceived her to be an incredibly sweet, tender-hearted woman, though remarkably quiet and reserved. Her distinct lack of constant chatter created a sharp, fascinating contrast to his own proudly extroverted, boisterous, and overwhelmingly energetic personality. If he could be accurately compared to a roaring, brilliant bonfire that effortlessly commanded the attention of every eye in the room, she was much more akin to a lovely, modest climbing rose, quietly and gracefully releasing its sweet fragrance from a cozy corner. Despite these vividly apparent differences in their external personalities, he harbored an absolute, unshakable conviction that she was a vital missing puzzle piece of his existence. Whenever they were together in the same room, they constantly displayed a profoundly sweet and deeply connected affection. They were frequently seen walking closely, their hands tightly intertwined, completely inseparable. He never hesitated for even a fraction of a second to publicly demonstrate his immense love for her, offering tight, comforting embraces, casting deeply affectionate glances her way, and pressing soft, reverent kisses upon her forehead, witnessing the overwhelming, pure happiness illuminating her brother's handsome face. The youngest sister felt a soaring sense of joy in her own heart, standing completely ready to open her arms wide and warmly welcome absolutely anyone that her brother loved so deeply and sincerely. After a relatively brief period of joyful courtship, he gently extended an invitation for her to move into his home, hoping that by sharing the same roof, they could forge an even tighter bond and understand the deepest layers of one another. Utilizing his innate sincerity and his naturally brilliant talent for gentle persuasion, he succeeded in bringing her to live with him in the bustling city, to inject even more vibrant life into their shared, cozy nest. They joyfully welcomed some incredibly adorable new members into their family. Their very first little companion was an Italian greyhound, an elegant hunting breed possessing a beautifully refined and graceful posture. Their fierce, mutual passion for this incredibly intelligent, wonderfully obedient canine breed swiftly motivated them to adopt yet another four-legged friend. The lively presence of these tiny, spirited dogs blessed their home with echoing peals of laughter and an endless, bubbling well of pure joy. Standing beside this remarkably gentle woman, he finally experienced a profound, beautiful sense of completeness within his soul. He consistently reserved the most wonderful, elevated vocabulary for her whenever she became the subject of conversation, referring to her using incredibly tender, affectionate pet names. The sheer magnitude of the love he held for her was so massive that he was entirely incapable of hiding it, nor did he possess the slightest desire to do so. Anyone who cast a glance in their direction could instantly perceive just how deeply and wonderfully he was drowning in the sweet waters of true love. After so many long, arduous years of hopeful searching, it appeared beyond a shadow of a doubt that he had discovered his true haven of peace, a secure, loving sanctuary where his soaring soul could finally rest and find absolute comfort. The bold decision to leave behind his former, noisy life to seek out a fresh, new land had not only granted him a wonderfully relaxed, soothing rhythm of living, but it also handed him the golden keys to a radiant future alongside the woman he adored. Exactly 6 years after the momentous day, he walked his little sister down the aisle, harboring quiet, whispered dreams of finding true love for himself. He was now completely prepared to step across the threshold into a brilliant new chapter of his life, proudly standing as an incredibly happy, fulfilled groom. Chapter 3. The House by the Lake. It was an absolutely breathtaking day in the crisp month of November in the year 2013. A massive gathering of beloved family members and cherished, lifelong friends had eagerly traveled across incredibly long distances, crossing state lines, just to share in the pure joy of his monumental day. The beautiful wedding ceremony was hosted right within the sprawling, lush grounds of their own charming home, wrapping the entire event in an atmosphere that was overwhelmingly intimate, wonderfully cozy, and completely filled to the brim with echoing, joyful laughter. It was a flawless artistic event, a magical space where the radiant love shared between the stunning bride and the beaming groom shone like a brilliant beacon, spreading waves of infectious happiness to absolutely everyone fortunate enough to be standing nearby. Shortly after exchanging their sacred vows, the newlyweds made a mutual, exciting decision to build an eternal sanctuary together. They packed their lives and relocated to an absolutely magnificent home situated right upon the border of the state, resting peacefully on the lush, verdant banks of a vast, sapphire blue lake. The magnificent structure stood proudly, resembling a flawless piece of fine art that had miraculously leaped straight out a highly expensive, glossy postcard. The exterior was painted in a deeply soothing, oceanic shade of blue that blended impeccably with the serene, quiet natural landscape surrounding it, sitting perfectly where the gentle, rippling waves whispered softly against the shore, pouring every ounce of their boundless passion and deep love into the project. The dedicated couple worked side by side to beautifully renovate and elegantly decorate their fresh living space. Under their careful hands, the house slowly transformed into a miniature, exquisite art gallery. It proudly showcased an impressive collection of refined, sophisticated paintings and highly valuable historic antiques that he had painstakingly, passionately collected over many dedicated years. To his creative mind, every single object held a rich, unique story, possessing its own distinct soul. He always felt a swelling, undeniable sense of pride whenever he guided visiting guests through the halls, formally introducing them to his treasured discoveries. Relocating to the tranquil edge of the peaceful lake further cultivated an ideal environment for the husband and wife to deeply nurture their intense, mutual love for the great outdoors. Whenever there was a vibrant whisper of outdoor exploration or thrilling physical activities, he was inevitably the very first person to eagerly volunteer, practically overflowed with an unstoppable, youthful enthusiasm. Furthermore, the wonderful geographic location of their grand new home significantly bridged the physical distance separating them from various other branches of their extensive extended family. His beloved nieces and nephews visited with wonderful frequency, joyfully sharing immensely warm, hearty dinners, attending highly emotional, beautiful music concerts together, and enthusiastically celebrating every major and minor holiday in perfect, harmonious unison. Beyond diligently maintaining remarkably tight-knit relationships with his own blood relatives, he also continuously demonstrated a vast, boundless ocean of love toward his wife's grown son and her lovely twin granddaughters, who resided mere 30 minutes away by car. The husband and wife never once declined an opportunity to gently care for and joyously play with the sweet children. Naturally possessing a remarkably youthful, incredibly bright, and beautifully untarnished soul, he appeared to share an invisible, magical string of connection with the little ones. He never hesitated for a moment to completely discard his polished, sophisticated image of a highly successful business magnate. Instead, he would happily sprawl out flat on the carpeted floor, inventing wonderfully silly, beautifully noisy, and completely carefree games to share with the giggling grandchildren. Whenever the pure, uninhibited sound of childish laughter echoed through the halls, the grand house by the lake instantly became infused with vibrant, buzzing life force, completely banishing any possible hint of dullness or boredom. His observant wife frequently utilized a video camera to lovingly record these priceless, everyday moments of pure magic. In one particular strip of film, beautifully bathed in warm, golden sunlight, he is captured enthusiastically instructing the two little twin girls on the precise art of playing the limbo game. With deeply dedicated instruction, he bends his sturdy torso backward, slowly and carefully lowering his center of gravity to miraculously slip beneath the wooden pole with remarkable, surprising grace. He laughs uproariously the entire time, thoroughly explaining to the children that this is a highly fascinating dance, playfully demanding that everyone present must instruct him on how to perform the movements with the utmost professional flair. His boundless, sparkling what makes it entirely impossible for his wife to suppress her own joyous laughter, while the two tiny girls are simply far too busy deeply enjoying their bowls of wonderfully cold, sweet ice cream to pay full attention. He genuinely adored participating in absolutely every type of game, ranging from highly strategic, mind-bending rounds of word-building board games to the most wonderfully absurd, nonsensical activities designed purely for children. He resembled a giant, magnificent teddy bear, immensely warm, wonderfully soft, and endlessly inviting, making the children constantly wish to cling tightly to him, completely refusing to ever let go. During such pure, golden moments, even his naturally quiet, reserved wife found it impossible to conceal her brilliant smile, standing completely ready to beautifully immerse herself in the grand, collective joy of their blended family. 5 beautiful, swiftly moving years gracefully passed since the momentous day they exchanged their wedding rings. The daily existence of the married couple appeared to be resting comfortably at its absolute brightest, most profoundly fulfilling peak. They deeply savored every single, peaceful passing second in each other's warm company, steadily constructing an unbreakable fortress of magnificent memories within the walls of their beloved home by the lake. Absolutely no one observing their lives could have possibly imagined that, hidden quietly and treacherously behind this flawless, picturesque canvas, dark, ominous storm clouds were silently, stealthily beginning to gather. Chapter 4. The Shadow Falls. It was a sweltering month of June in the year 2018. The intensely hot, humid days of high summer had firmly begun to blanket the entire lake region in a heavy, golden haze. While he was diligently, carefully tending to the vibrant, blooming bushes in their lush, wonderfully cool garden, he suddenly and inexplicably began to feel absolutely terrible. Violent, aggressive waves of dizziness crashed over him with frightening speed, causing the vibrant world spinning around his eyes to fiercely tilt and sway. He groggily complained to his wife about a sharp, piercing pain echoing deep within his ear, accompanied by a relentless, churning sensation of severe nausea rising stubbornly from the pit of his stomach. Completely unable to maintain his balance or stand firmly on his own 2 feet, he tragically succumbed to the sickness, violently emptying his stomach directly onto the perfectly manicured, emerald green lawn in front of their beautiful home. His normally vibrant, healthy face had drained to a startling, pale ash color, and small, icy beads of cold sweat densely dotted his broad forehead. He could only hazily recall the simple joy of indulging in his beloved hobby of gardening mere moments before the vicious bout of vertigo launched its sudden attack. He mistakenly concluded that the fiercely harsh, unforgiving summer sunlight must have been far too intense, causing him to suffer a severe case of heat exhaustion. Witnessing her usually robust husband looking so terribly frail and entirely depleted, the wife, drawing upon her extensive, highly trained professional background as a certified nurse, moved with swift efficiency to gently support his heavy weight and carefully guide him back into the cool sanctuary of their home. She tenderly advised him that the absolute best course of action for his current condition was to lie down, surrender to deep rest, and peacefully recuperate in the quiet comfort of their grand bed. He drifted off into a profound sleep, completely submerged in an ocean of absolute, crushing exhaustion. When he finally mustered the immense strength required to flutter his heavy eyelids open once again, it felt as though an enormous block of time had been mysteriously stolen from his life. An astonishing 36 long, agonizingly slow hours had completely vanished into the void. This deeply concerning event caused his entire, widely spread family an immense amount of acute and nervous worry. His youngest sister, residing many miles away, hurriedly dialed the telephone to speak with her sister-in-law, anxiously pressing for specific details regarding the highly mysterious, frightening nature of her beloved brother's sudden illness. The concept of an exceptionally healthy, highly athletic, and relentlessly energetic man suddenly losing his conscious awareness for such an incredibly extended period of time was profoundly strange, deeply alarming, and entirely out of character. However, echoing smoothly through the receiver on the other end of the line. The voice of his wife remarkably maintained an aura of absolute, soothing calm. She gently but firmly reassured the deeply worried family members that his condition had significantly stabilized. She promised them that she was maintaining an incredibly close, vigilant watch over his every single movement, guaranteeing that the entire situation remained securely under her professional control. Even though he had never, in his entire vibrant life, experienced a sudden, severe bout of illness quite like this, she confidently hypothesized that it was merely a temporary, acute symptom of absolute physical exhaustion brought entirely upon by his habit of working far too fiercely without adequate rest. Relying heavily on their deep trust in the solid medical knowledge and professional background of their sister-in-law, the collective family gradually allowed their heightened state of alert to gently relax. They placed their absolute, unwavering faith in the comforting thought that she would care for him with the utmost dedication and tender love. Everyone quietly clicked their tongues in sympathetic understanding, quietly murmuring to themselves that perhaps his famously massive reserves of energy and his relentlessly fast-paced, non-stop rhythm of life had simply, finally reached a necessary breaking point, a moment where his physical body loudly demanded a period of profound rest. And indeed, miraculously, a mere 2 weeks following the frightening incident, the incredibly diligent, loving care provided by his wife appeared to have yielded spectacularly successful results. He seemed to have fully, entirely recovered his strength, returning triumphantly to his former status as a highly dynamic, fiercely energetic, and radiantly alive man they all adored. To joyously celebrate his victorious return to excellent health, he made an enthusiastic decision to host a grand, wonderfully elaborate gathering to honor the monumental holiday of the 4th of July. The magnificent party unfolded in an atmosphere that was overwhelmingly lively, wonderfully boisterous, and deeply joyous, easily matching the high caliber of absolutely any grand event he had ever personally organized and passed. Once again, he generously distributed his signature, roaring laughs, freely offered his famously warm, bone-crushing embraces, and openly displayed his customary, deeply affectionate care toward every single esteemed guest who crossed the threshold of his home. As the vibrant, rhythmic music swelled beautifully through the warm evening air, he gently grasped his wife's hand, lovingly pulling her toward the center of the wooden dance floor, where they seamlessly merged with the highly infectious, happy melodies. Their beloved family and close friends rapidly gathered around them in a joyful circle, harmoniously sharing in the magnificent, soaring feeling of pure, unadulterated happiness. Watching the beautiful, deeply connected married couple hold each other tightly, sharing a sweet, deeply passionate kiss amidst the roaring, enthusiastic cheers of the surrounding crowd. Every single person present quietly felt a profound sense of awe and deep admiration for such a solid, incredibly sincere love. Life within the walls of the stunning house by the lake appeared to have seamlessly, perfectly realigned itself with its flawless, beautiful trajectory. Absolutely no one present harbored even the slightest, darkest fragment of suspicion or doubt that anything other than a brilliant, sunlit future, overflowing with endless joy and remarkably long life, patiently awaited the wonderful couple in the years to come. Chapter 5. A Sudden Farewell. On the deeply tragic morning of July 21st, 2018, the incredibly peaceful, delicate silence enveloping the summer morning was violently, abruptly shattered by an urgent, highly distressed emergency call connecting directly to the Central Dispatch Center. The painfully piercing, shrill wail of police sirens echoed loudly across the normally tranquil, sleeping residential neighborhood, violently tearing through the thin, ghostly patches of morning mist that still lingered gently across the calm surface of the lake, when the rapid response law enforcement units bravely advanced upon the scene. The digital recording lens securely mounted to the uniform of the commanding officer captured a devastating, deeply heartbreaking visual that would cause anyone's chest to tighten with profound sorrow. just a few short steps past the grand main entrance. Lying directly at the foot of the magnificently sweeping, elegant wooden staircase rested the deeply beloved man who had always carried within his chest the spectacularly explosive, unstoppable energy of a vibrant volcano. He lay entirely, devastatingly motionless. That magnificent, fiercely roaring heart had tragically ceased its rhythmic beating. He had permanently, irreversibly departed from the living world. The very air trapped inside the grand house felt incredibly thick, overwhelmingly heavy, and deeply coated in a dark, sorrowful gloom. Emanating from a shadowed, quiet corner of the expansive room, the sound of soft, breathless, entirely heartbroken sobbing from his surviving wife drifted through the air, painting a picture of absolute, unparalleled misery and sheer, crushing emotional agony. The highly trained police officers respectfully forced themselves to significantly lower the volume of their voices, deliberately exchanging crucial information through gentle, soft whispers, deeply desperate to avoid inflicting even the tiniest fraction of additional trauma upon the already shattered, fragile soul of the grieving widow. Between devastating, heavy sobs, she recounted to the gentle commanding officer the terrifying tale of how her strong husband had been fiercely battling a horrifying resurgence of terrible dizziness over the course of the previous 2 days. On that specific, tragically fateful Thursday morning, when he had bravely attempted to force himself to stand up from his bed, a violently aggressive wave of vertigo had mercilessly struck him down. She explained, her voice trembling, that she had been forced to physically support his heavy frame, to guide him safely up to the massive master bedroom located on the 2nd floor. She tearfully claimed that since that precise, terrible moment, he had never again possessed the necessary strength to take a single step down that grand staircase. The weeping wife further explained that she had merely stepped outside into the yard for a remarkably brief moment to quickly trim the lush green grass. However, upon turning the doorknob and stepping back inside the quiet sanctuary of their home, a scene of absolute, paralyzing horror had violently presented itself to her eyes. Her beloved husband had collapsed entirely, falling right at the bottom edge of the sweeping stairs. Trapped in a sudden, overwhelming state of absolute, blind panic, and completely despite her extensive, professional medical expertise as a highly trained nurse, she tragically realized that she was entirely, hopelessly powerless to change the outcome. The vital spark of life had fled his body far too rapidly. Completely unable to magically reverse the devastating situation through her own efforts, she bolted out the front door toward the open street, like a person entirely consumed by madness, desperately waving her arms high in the air to urgently beg for vital assistance from a passing motorcyclist, pleading with the stranger to immediately dial the emergency services number. The completely shocking, world-shattering news traveled with the speed of lightning, rapidly reaching the deeply stunned ears of the various family members. His young nephew, who currently proudly served as a dedicated police officer and was actively working his assigned shift, received the devastating telephone call from his highly distressed mother. His mother's voice caught painfully in her throat as she choked out the agonizing words, delivering the horrific news that his deeply respected, unconditionally beloved uncle had suddenly, inexplicably passed away. Even though his rational, highly trained mind acknowledged the brutal, inescapable truth of the words, his heart fiercely, violently attempted to reject the reality. The entire situation had unfolded with far too much suddenness. It felt utterly, completely impossible to believe. He immediately pressed his foot to the accelerator, racing his vehicle toward the solemn scene, his mind violently echoing with thousands of agonizing, entirely unanswerable questions. How in the world could a man who practically overflowed with such incredibly vibrant life force simply vanish so abruptly? In a totally different location, situated 700 miles away, the youngest sister answered her ringing telephone. The moment the heavy words registered in her mind, the entire foundational structure of her beautiful world seemed to violently collapse around her. She found it utterly impossible to accept this brutal, exceptionally cruel reality. How could the magnificent, invincible hero of her entire existence possibly disappear into the void forever? The family of the nephew instantly rushed to maintain a close, supportive vigil beside the deeply mourning widow, profoundly understanding the limitless, crushing emotional pain she was undoubtedly enduring after having to personally, tragically discover the lifeless body of her beloved husband. The widow continuously, repetitively mumbled phrases of deep self-blame, constantly analyzing the horrific situation and tearfully speculating that it was highly likely the severe, aggressive recurrence of his vertigo that had tragically caused him to slip, lose his footing, and tumble violently from the very top of the wooden stairs to the hard floor below. The deeply experienced commanding officer immediately began a highly careful, profoundly methodical visual inspection of the immediate area, sharply scanning for the very first fragments of physical clues. Even though the deeply silent, peaceful atmosphere of the home strongly suggested a tragic but entirely natural medical event, his deeply ingrained professional instincts strongly urged him to carefully ascend the wooden steps to thoroughly examine the environment of the primary bedroom on the upper floor. Walking slowly through the interior of such an incredibly massive, currently unfamiliar, and deeply silent home brought forth a profoundly strange, overwhelmingly eerie sensation that was difficult to describe. However, absolutely everything on the upper level appeared to remain perfectly, neatly in its proper place. There was absolutely no visual indication, no subtle sign whatsoever, that any form of violent physical struggle or chaotic argument had recently occurred. The expansive, comfortable bed was slightly messy, merely displaying the totally normal, rumpled wrinkles of recently used blankets and soft pillows. But it was completely devoid of any dark traces of violence, relying heavily upon the total, confirmed absence of any dark, blooming bruises or significant external physical trauma upon the surface of the body. The initial assessment provided by the responding medical examiner tentatively concluded that there was absolutely no physical evidence to support the theory of a violent, tumbling fall from a high elevation, focusing intently upon the presence of strange, dark blue and purple discoloration stretching widely across the broad chest of the deceased. The medical examiner gently proposed a new, different theory, that he had most likely suffered a massive, completely devastating heart attack. The working hypothesis suggested that perhaps he had bravely, stubbornly forced his failing body to carefully walk down the stairs, successfully reaching the very final step before his heart finally surrendered. Upon hearing these initial, highly comforting medical explanations, the grieving wife made a visible effort to bravely suppress her echoing sobs. She quietly murmured to the others that this deeply tragic event was likely the harsh, unyielding design of destiny. It was simply the precise day that the highest power in the universe had ultimately decided to call his name and bring him home. Chapter 6. Whispers of Doubt. While the grieving wife remained deeply submerged in an ocean of profound confusion and overwhelming sorrow, the young nephew, alongside several other highly dedicated members of the extended family, immediately rolled up their sleeves and began the deeply necessary task of cleaning and organizing the grand house. They possessed a strong, pure desire to restore the space to a highly neat, wonderfully tidy condition, hoping to provide the deeply unfortunate, emotionally shattered woman with a quiet, peaceful sanctuary where she could finally rest her heavy head after an incredibly long, physically and emotionally draining day. However, the exact moment they stepped across the threshold into the expansive master bedroom on the second floor, an absolutely horrific, incredibly foul odor violently assaulted their senses, causing absolutely everyone present to freeze in utter, stunned disbelief. The very air within the room felt thick, overwhelmingly heavy with a deeply unpleasant scent that spoke of a shocking lack of basic care, a scent that absolutely did not belong within the polished walls of such an incredibly luxurious, meticulously maintained home. Bravely following the invisible trail of that highly disturbing odor, they made a deeply shocking, entirely bewildering discovery There were massive, deeply set, heavily discolored stains spreading widely across the very center of the large sleeping mattress. The deeply upsetting truth struck them with the force of a physical blow. This luxurious bed had tragically become a place of profound suffering and deep neglect for the poor, immobilized man for what appeared to be a remarkably extended period of time. A rapid, overwhelming flood of highly suspicious, deeply troubling questions instantly began to sprout and multiply within the sharp, analytical mind of the young nephew. Why in the world would a highly dignified man, someone who was widely renowned for his exceptionally clean, incredibly meticulous, and highly refined lifestyle, possibly tolerate lying upon a deeply soiled, terribly neglected bed for such a lengthy duration? The sheer volume of evidence soaked deeply into the thick layers of the mattress clearly indicated that he had been practically imprisoned upon that bed, having entirely, tragically lost the basic ability to physically care for his own fundamental needs. Without wasting a single precious second of hesitation, they made a collective, determined decision to utilize all their physical strength to immediately remove the incredibly heavy, deeply ruined mattress from premises, desperately wishing to restore a sense of basic dignity and clean air to the room. When the youngest sister called from her faraway home, her voice sharp with deep concern, she gently but firmly pressed her sister-in-law for a logical, comprehensive explanation regarding the exact reason her strong brother had succumbed to such a surprisingly severe, debilitating illness. The sister-in-law maintained a remarkably low, highly sorrowful tone of voice, simply explaining that he had felt incredibly unwell over the course of the past few days, her heart brimming with highly complex, deeply anxious questions. The little sister sharply demanded to know exactly why the wife had absolutely failed to place a telephone call to inform even a single member of their large family. Why had she not desperately sought vital, urgent medical assistance from outside professionals? The widow merely offered an incredibly fragile, terribly thin excuse. She claimed she had genuinely, deeply believed that the trajectory of his physical health was gradually, steadily improving on its own. As the tense conversation dragged on, the highly illogical, completely baffling details began to expose themselves more clearly to the light. The sister-in-law firmly insisted that he was entirely unable to personally place a telephone call because he was sleeping incredibly deeply, almost constantly, and had somehow managed to completely misplace his personal cellular telephone an entire week ago. This specific, glaring lie was instantaneously recognized by the sharp-minded sister. She, far better than anyone else on earth, knew with absolute certainty that her older brother was always, constantly attached to his telephone, treating it as if it were a physical extension of his own hand. His complex business dealings, his vast network of partners, his deep love for his family, absolutely everything was firmly connected through that specific device. The very concept of him simply losing it and then choosing to lie quietly, silently suffering through a terrifying illness without attempting to reach out, was something that went entirely, fundamentally against the very core of his highly communicative personality. A dark, deeply unsettling premonition began to quietly spark and slowly burn within the deepest corners of the younger sister's heart. There was an incredibly mysterious, profoundly cruel shadow completely enveloping the strange circumstances of his passing. A terrifying darkness that she could not yet accurately name. A mere few days following the unfolding of the horrific tragedy, the highly important, deeply sensitive topic regarding the last will and testament of the deceased was gently, respectfully brought to the table. The younger sister had previously engaged in multiple, highly clear, incredibly precise discussions with her brother concerning his ultimate final wishes, most notably focusing on his deeply held desire to be peacefully laid to rest within an incredibly beautiful, highly serene cemetery located in his home state, a place wonderfully shaded by rows of majestic, ancient trees. However, when she politely asked the widow to produce the vital legal document, an emotional bucket of freezing ice water was violently thrown directly into her face. The wife firmly, stubbornly declared that absolutely no such legal document existed, making the situation feel infinitely worse. The widow had aggressively taken upon herself to make the unilateral, incredibly rapid decision to have the physical body cremated, instantly formulating a firm plan to host a private memorial service strictly within the confines of their personal home. The emotional atmosphere blanketing the memorial service was incredibly tight, overwhelmingly tense, and heavily burdened with highly complicated, deep sorrow. The beloved friends and the highly loyal business partners who had shared deep, meaningful connections with him found it utterly impossible to hold back their bitter, deeply stinging tears. Even though the ceremony was ostensibly designed with the beautiful, noble intention of honoring his vast contributions and celebrating his brilliantly radiant life, the deeply unsettling truth surrounding his